me, Phanie. Phanie with a P. I've been rambling in front of this camera super awkwardly because I don't know how to start this video because it's kind of sad, I guess. I'm not sad about it, I'm excited about it, but I guess it's a long story and it has sad parts to it, I guess. So I have what's called a neuromuscular disorder, I think. I'll feel dumb if that's not the case, I'll look it up if that's not it. Anyways, and it's called Myasthenia Gravis, which is apparently super rare. And there is two types of Myasthenia Gravis. One usually leads into the other. So you could just have ocular Myasthenia Gravis, where it just affects your face, or you could have generalized Myasthenia Gravis and it affects your whole body. So I definitely started off with the ocular Myasthenia Gravis, like that's how my disease progressed. There's pictures of me when I was about 12 to 13 where my eyes just don't open properly. So if you see someone with Myasthenia Gravis, they might have like droopy eyes, or maybe even just one eye that's droopy. And I talked about it in my last video that actually the face that I have right now is not my normal face. I guess it is normal to everyone else, but this is just, I permanently raise my eyebrows all the time. They're always up because I thought I was really, really ugly as a kid, the way that my face looked on its own because of these droopy eyelid symptoms, which is called ptosis. Your eyelids don't open up all the way. It was literally permanent resting bitchy face, and I just thought I was a super ugly person. And then slowly as the years went on, I don't know if I like practiced in front of the mirror or just like took pictures of myself. Selfies 10 years ago, hashtag selfie. But I realized if I raised my eyebrows up like this, I looked sort of normal. Let's say from 11 to 12 and maybe early 13, I just had the ocular symptoms. And then in my mid-teens, it definitely progressed to generalized. The biggest symptom that I could remember was I had generalized weakness in my hands, and I thought it was so strange. I couldn't grip stuff properly, and I was constantly dropping things. And then the other symptom I had at that time, earlier on, like when I was, let's say 16, was like extreme fatigue. I was really tired all the time. But, teenagers sleep all the time, right? So I remember like I'd have to carry a bag of groceries and my hands would be, and forearms I guess would be so weak that they'd shake violently. And I thought that that was a tremor at the time. And because I actually have a history of multiple sclerosis in my family, I was convinced that I had MS. But I had my driver's license at this time, so I drove myself to the walk-in clinic being like, please diagnose me with multiple sclerosis, please. And they're like, what are you doing? They're like, well, if you're having issues, go to the ER, I guess. So I went to the emergency room, did some neurological tests. They do lots of, like, I'm sure anybody that's had any sort of diagnostic work in the neurological area know about all the tests they do, but you have to push your hands up, or they push down on you and you have to push back up and stuff like that. They try to measure your weakness and things like that. So we did that. They referred me to an MRI, and I think I got my first MRI when I was, let's say 17, and clear. Okay, so I guess I don't have MS then. So from about the age 17 to, let's say 22, that was just like an ongoing pattern with me, that sometimes my arms would go really weak or my hands go weak. I definitely always had problems with my eyes, and sometimes it would be way worse, and sometimes it would be pretty normal. Anybody that knows me or knew me around that time and would ever get like, if I get hammered drunk, I would end up like crying in the bathroom, being all upset, being like, oh, I have MS, oh my god. I knew the neurologist told me that the MRI was clear, but I knew there was still something wrong. Until finally I moved to Toronto, which was awesome, and the first job that I got was super stressful. The boss was insane, like screaming and yelling all the time, like literally just screaming at everybody for no reason. Even his wife worked there, and he would scream at her and call her a bitch like every other day. It was strange. Anyways, so it was super stressful, and the stress affected my health, and I was the same thing. I couldn't use my hand. I could barely type on the keyboard. All of my other symptoms started to show up. A lot of forgetfulness, like brain-related issues. Like, yeah, very forgetful. I don't think at that point that it had gone to my legs, but definitely my arms. And like now this time, not even from like wrists down, it was like all the way up. At this point, I started to experience numbness. I had a patch of it on my elbow, and whenever I'd like lean on like the armrest of my desk chair, it would feel like if you ever got like something, like you say, you spilled jam all over yourself and then you didn't wash it off, and then you'd like lean on and your skin is kind of pulling in a weird way. And I was constantly like, oh, I'm dirty. Like, what is this? But no, it was just numb, which it was like the surrounding skin that thought it was weird. Anyway, I did the same thing. I went to the emergency room. I had a tremor at the time, but that was mostly because I couldn't, you know, lift my purse to put it on my shoulder. I would be typing all day and it would fatigue the muscles in my arms. And so I was like, I definitely have MS. Those last people are so stupid. What are they doing? So I went to the emergency room in Toronto, and this lady who saw me, who wasn't a neurologist, she was just like the regular doctor. She wrote down, symptoms seem to disappear when she is calm or relaxes. I don't know if she meant it in a way that it was clearly psychological, that it was all in my head and I was just like having a panic attack. My hands were weak and shaking. But with myasthenia gravis, the more you exert yourself, the weaker your muscles become. And if you sit down, lay down, relax, like the energy will start coming back to them. I took that as being, clearly this is all in my head and I'm insane. Great. Still, she referred me to a neurologist. We went through the same process. I got an MRI. He did more of the same exact freaking tests on me. I'm so used to like squeezing people's fingers and pushing on them and stuff. And he was kind of not the greatest. He gave me we did the MRI. He said that it was clean. So I was like, okay, I don't have MS. I was still so convinced for that 5-year period. I just knew that maybe there was like a plaque on my MRI that was hard to see. And he just told me, literally, word for word, he said, sometimes people's hands go numb. Okay. What? And again, for a long period of time, I left it at that. It went from having that once a year, maybe once every 18 months when I was, you know, between 15 to 22, to having it definitely once a year, sometimes 2, maybe 3 times a year, of just like a couple week long or month-long period of my hands just being like, bleh. So those were, in a way, it was the good years because my symptoms weren't that bad compared to what they are now, or what they have been over the past 2 years, but still not knowing is the worst. I was just convinced that I was insane. So fast forward to 2013, yeah, with issues with my hands and my eyes and stuff like that. But then the brain fog started to get really bad. I'd get super confused all the time. The biggest issue I had was my fatigue. I was tired, exhausted all of the time. And I could sleep for half a day and I'd still, you know, maybe be up for 6 to 8 hours and then be exhausted and need to go to bed. But I kept living my life because I just thought that I was tired all the time. I know that I actually have been diagnosed with something else. I have iron deficiency anemia, so I figured it was that. Like, take more iron pills and drink orange juice and eat more leafy greens. So let's say end of 2013, I started to get just pain in my shoulders. My muscles were so tight and sore, and they weren't weak, they were overworked. I couldn't place what was going on, and at the same time I actually had started taking singing lessons, and we would do like different stretches and stuff like that, and every time I would just be like, oh, my muscles are so tight, and I didn't know why, and he suggested that I go see this one physiotherapist. I was like, oh, okay. And I went there a couple of times, and she was like, whoa, you're a mess, and would try to fix me up, and then I think I went like twice a month at once, and she's like, you're worse the second time. Like, okay, let's do every week. Nope, let's try twice a week, because it was just not getting better. I didn't even realize what was actually happening until this year. I thought that, you know, like extreme muscle soreness was one of the symptoms, but no, it's muscle weakness, but it's not across your whole body, and your muscles might get sore from trying to compensate for the ones that are not working. So I had trouble holding my head up, like it's like, even now, I don't know why I'm sitting like this. I have to like prep myself up. I can't just sit up normally like this because I'll immediately start to slouch and like need to do, even when I'm driving, I have to make sure I use the headrest because my neck is super weak. I can't hold my head up properly. And I probably, for about a 6-month period, I just like maxed out on pain pills every single day. It was so sore. So it was this neck issues and fatigue, and everything was its worst about midsummer 2014. And that was actually in coincides with, I quit my full-time job. I did it because I worked freelance and I could support myself for the most part on my own. But mostly because I felt like an idiot because I was calling in sick like every week. Just working, sitting behind a desk for 8 hours a day was exhausting. I couldn't do it. I quit in June and had more free time to be able to go to physio and to rest more, and things started to get better from there. And then the summer kind of went and winter came and things got better. But then in the early spring of 2015, I had a lot of stressful stuff going on, just life-related things, and I was stressed all the time, and the tightness in my muscles got a lot worse, the brain fog got really bad, and I started to get weakness in my legs for the first time. And it started off as like I'd call it a tingling and / numbness, but it's honestly so hard to differentiate tingling and numbness and weakness. Now I know, but at the time I was like, are they numb? No, they're just not working properly. Still, I was working for myself. I'd sit at home and do my work and take naps every day, and still things, they plateaued, I think I would say. My hands were pretty weak, my eyes were always bad, always tired, but yeah, things plateaued, and I didn't have that like recovery period. I stayed with the weakness in my hands and the tingling weakness in my legs and the fatigue. Those just stayed. But then by the summertime of 2015, things got much worse. I remember it was really hot and I was staying in my boyfriend at the time, now husband's apartment in the summer, and we were on the 2nd floor, and it was so hot, but I didn't really think anything of it, and I woke up and I like couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel them, but mostly I couldn't use them. Like if I poked them, I knew they were there. But they didn't work. I couldn't go down the stairs. And they burned. It was like, wasn't like the skin on the top burned, but it's like a couple layers underneath burned. Like if you've ever had a sunburn, like a pale person like I am, it felt like I had a sunburn all over my legs, under my skin. It felt that my muscles had a sunburn. And they also were super weak. So I would say that I saw my neurologist for the first time in August, let's say. And by then, again, my symptoms were consistent. I couldn't walk by myself for long stretches of time. I'd need to grab onto my partner's arm and kind of just walk slower. And sort of with a limp, because sometimes this leg was weaker than this leg. And so I kind of just lived like that, waiting to see my neurologist. We did another MRI. This one was clear again. But then this neurologist actually gave a shit, and he sent me for those peripheral neuropathy tests with a needle poke, lots of blood work about any sort of deficiency that it could be. We did a single fiber EMG thing. All along I still assumed that, even then I assumed that it was MS. I had, all along this period, I had a lot of bladder issues. Apparently they're not related to Myasthenia Gravis, so maybe it was just a weird one-off issues that I had, but bladder issues are very common with MS, so I was like, again, these idiots with their MRIs, they've missed it, or I'm crazy. But after the MRI was clear for the 3rd freaking time, he started listing off other things and asking me actually other questions and following up with me, which had never happened before. They're just like, it's clean, and just sent me on my way. And then one day he asked me, like, would you say that you get like really exhausted and worn down and your symptoms that you're having are worse in the evening? I'm like, oh, absolutely. Like, I have to take a nap otherwise. He's like, and talking about like physically exerting myself and just being like exhausted, even if that's just going for a walk and needing to sit down to recover or take a nap to be able to get my energy back. But in the morning, I'm usually at my best. I'm like, it didn't seem like symptoms for a type of disease. It just sounded like logical. So he's like, it's interesting. It sounds like you might have myasthenia gravis. By this point, my eyes were so bad, I could barely open them some days. Like they would be past my pupils. Usually my right side is worse, but I wouldn't be able to see at all. And I just didn't, I was tired, I guess, that day, and I didn't raise my eyebrows up like I normally would. My neurologist talked about this myasthenia gravis thing. I was like, I don't even know what that is. I remember wanting to Google it when I got back home, but I couldn't remember what the hell it was called. So all these tests were coming back negative, even the myasthenia gravis ones. I'd say by my 4th or 5th visit with him, he finally decided to just write me the prescription for the medication that you would give someone that does have myasthenia gravis. Because, what was the harm? There were some side effects to it, and I can talk about those later, because obviously I'm still taking this medication. But, try it for a month and see how it goes. But so the first day that I took it, Mestinon it's called, it lasts about 4 to 6 hours. And for me at least, it takes about an hour to work. And then there's like a sweet spot of, 2, 3, 4 hours. And then it takes about an hour to sort of wane. Now that I knew that my droopy eyes were part of the symptoms and not just my ugly face, according to, 13-year-old me, I paid attention to that a lot more. And that was the first thing, like within 2 hours, my eyes were like open right up. It was crazy. The only time I'd experienced that was with the ice pack test. I've had these droopy eyes for, 15 years. And the fact that I didn't have to raise my eyebrows like this, obviously I'm still doing it because my symptoms are still there. See, this is what they like now. I took a Mestinon before I set up for this video, so my face actually looks sort of droopy, but not as bad as it can be, basically. And I don't like to take pictures of my eyes at their worst because it's not great. It doesn't look good. So that was crazy. I took it for the whole month, and I might have a bad day walking, but I definitely didn't need to hold on to people for support as much. Things were just a lot better. I told him that, and he was excited about it, and he wrote me a prescription for the rest of the year. And also he prescribed me, there's like a slow release one, so I take that when I sleep, because I was actually, one of the symptoms can be difficulty breathing, like basically your diaphragm doesn't work properly, and that's, myasthenia gravis isn't fatal except for that. So there should be hopefully a lot of warning signs before that. It's called a myasthenic crisis, and some people just can't breathe. I always had a little bit of shortness of breath, but it wasn't one of the most common symptoms, and it was only sometimes maybe. But then I started to get it a whole lot more. I went camping last week, and alcohol affects the symptoms as well for myasthenia gravis. After camping, I was fairly hungover. I drank way too much. But I also just couldn't catch my breath. I remember I just had to lay down and be like, so the slow release one has helped with that. Basically, I take Mestinon now. I started taking it, let's say January, and I went through a really hot summer, and because heat affects autoimmune disorders, I survived through the heat pretty well. I still walk really slow sometimes. I still walk with a limp. I still fumble stuff and drop stuff. I still slur. You also get muscle weakness in your throat and your jaw and your tongue. So it's another one of the symptoms is it's hard to chew stuff. People have trouble swallowing or chewing or speaking. I get sort of slurry. I get really essy I've choked a lot, but I haven't choked to the point where I was actually like needed the Heimlich maneuver or anything. I'll just cough and it'll be fine. It's really frustrating, especially when I drink hot liquids. Like I'll drink like a coffee and I can feel it, like it feels like when you drink or when you take like a really large pill and it just like slowly goes down your throat. Or if you're like, I remember when I was a kid and I would like be getting yelled at and I'd be like trying to hold back tears and I'd feel like this like lump in my throat. It feels like that, even if it's liquid. Specifically hot liquid. This summer I've eaten a lot of like ice cream because I'm like, I medically need it. It's just, the cold helps. I don't know why. It just does. The same thing with the ice pack test. I guess now that I think about it. I don't know why the cold helps, but it does. So I ate a lot of like $1 McDonald's cones. But anyways, one of the tests, the only test that I've had for myasthenia gravis that actually did come back positive was I had a CT scan for my thymus gland. Scientifically, they're not totally sure what causes myasthenia gravis, but the theory is that your thymus gland, which is a gland that you get or you're born with, and as you know, tiny you experiences diseases and bacteria and stuff like that, you build up antibodies for it. As an adult, you don't really need them. You're not going to be seeing some crazy new disease, hopefully. So you don't really need to make these new antibodies. And with myasthenia gravis, it's still putting out these antibodies, and those are the ones that are affecting the connection between your nerves and your muscles. So that was one of the first tests in these 15 years that was sort of positive. People get their thymus removed. It's called a thymectomy. Let's say, I think it's something like 30 to 40% of the people that have their thymus gland removed have their symptoms just go away. And there's probably another, I don't know, 40% of people where their symptoms don't go away, but they don't get worse, and they might get a little bit better, not go away, and is totally manageable with Mestinon. And then there's the other whatever percent that just nothing happens. But those are pretty good odds, right? Like, I'm okay with that. So he said, do you want to be referred to a thoracic surgeon? I said, yes. I don't really want to have to risk my symptoms getting worse and worse and worse, and actually having my first official like myasthenic crisis where I need to be admitted to the hospital and get steroids. If there's a chance of staving that off by having surgery, go ahead. That's fine. It's slightly scary, but I'll do whatever it takes. If it works, awesome. If it sort of works, great. If it doesn't work, I tried. I've been told that symptoms probably won't change until about a year has passed. Maybe sooner, but definitely by a year you should know whether or not the surgery has helped at all. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of take a look back. It's been interesting. I didn't think it was such a long and epic journey. There's a lot more to it than what I'm saying now, but I don't want to ramble on for as long as I already have. I'll definitely try and make some update videos over the course, because finding people on YouTube with mostly MS, I watched a lot of videos of people talking about their experiences with MS, and it helped a lot. It was just nice to see somebody going through the same thing as me, even if it was something kind of sad and depressing and really tough. It was really nice to see. And there's like a couple videos about myasthenia gravis, and trust me, I've watched them like a bunch of times. There's this one video of this girl, I'll probably link it, not in my crotch, but like in the description, of this girl who just like loses her ability to walk. She just falls down all the time, but she's got like this super great attitude. I've seen that video like 10 times. Shitty things happen to this poor girl, but she's got like a heart of gold, and it was so nice to be able to see somebody that was going through the same actual thing as me, maybe definitely more extreme than I have, but it was nice to see someone with, yeah, such a good attitude about it. So when I made that video about the ice pack test, I got a lot of comments about people saying like, I also am having a diagnosis problem, or I might have myasthenia gravis. It just warms my heart a little bit that my rambling, 15-year journey might, give somebody else the strength to keep pushing forward. I'm so happy now that I am diagnosed, because not knowing what is wrong with you is the worst. And also having so many doctors just, you gotta know the tests aren't coming up, whatever. It was very disheartening. And I hope other people will see me or other people similar to me and maybe have the drive to be able to, you know, tell their doctors, no, there's something wrong, or fire their doctor, get a new doctor. You don't have to keep the same doctor. I've gone through 3 different neurologists now. If it wasn't working for me, then I found somebody else, but it took me over 10 years to be able to have that courage. Unfortunately, depending on the country you're in, it might take longer to start over, but you're allowed to make that decision to say, you know what, I would rather wait an extra couple of weeks or months even to get another referral and talk to somebody else. So we shall see. I'm sort of nervous about my thymectomy, sort of not. I'm really excited about it. When I went to the appointment with my thoracic surgeon, I met him and he was like, okay, we'll do it. He opened up my CT scan in front of me and like scrolled through it and was like, yeah, that's a plump thymus. And I was like, plump? Oh, like I was so excited to be able to hear that. So that's a positive result for, you know, you have an inflamed or enlarged plump thymus gland. I'm like, okay, that was the first time that anything came back positive at all. That's like one of my new favorite words now. I'm like, ooh, it's plump. I got high hopes for it. And even not worst case scenario, now I just have a couple of cool scars down the side here and I have the same problems I have now. I think maybe if they kept up, I would definitely probably get myself a cane. I've probably been too proud. I live in like a busy neighborhood and people just literally stare at me and they give me these like dumb pity eyes where they're like, oh. Or they'll be like, I've got a lot of like homeless people that are maybe intoxicated a little bit and be like, what's wrong with your foot? I'm like, nothing, sort of, it's my legs. So I definitely get a cane. I saw one that had cats on it. The not being able to walk and being tired all the time, being sore all the time, I've been able to deal with that. The hardest part has been the symptoms in my mouth, though, in my throat, because as I said, I was going to singing lessons. I have some singing videos on this YouTube channel, but I haven't obviously uploaded them in a long time because I literally can't. I could, it doesn't sound good though. I get slurry and it starts to hurt, like my muscles, the same way that my shoulders would get sore. I had like other muscles in my throat try to compensate, and I'm just doing bad form anyways. Like, yeah, I stopped going about a little over a year ago. I had an awesome time. I was like improving really quickly. Apparently I have like had a 3 octave range and I just had a blast and I was really excited to like make some more videos and see my progression of it. But then I still, even like I'd do my warm-ups for the singing lessons and we'd start. By the end of it, I didn't get better, I got worse. I'm like, what? And then I tried going twice a week to see, you know, maybe I just need to practice more. But I didn't understand that, and the more I did it, the worse it got. So it was really hard to make the decision to stop going. I've never really had like a passion for anything. But I got into singing and I started to get into voice acting as well. I did like some small video game work and like a little cartoon here and there. And like I had a lot of fun and it was really awesome to like hone my skill even though I didn't really have any, but I liked learning. I've literally never had something that I just loved and I feel like that's been taken away from me. But I don't know why I insisted upon, I was like, I should talk about this in the video, but I knew I would get really sad about it. I don't know, I have high hopes. You know, if that doesn't work, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, but at least now I'm getting my thymus gland out, I'm taking my Mestinon, I'm doing the steps that I need to stay healthy or get more healthy, and I think that's the best I can do for now, and you know, maybe a year or 2 from now, I'll be able to start doing what I wanted to do, like recording audiobooks, being in video games and singing songs and like joining like a local choir, stuff like that. So I think that's where I'll leave it. I want to apologize to any friends that I might have that I have bailed on you a lot in the past. I've been very housebound. I'm just so tired all the time. I've canceled on so many plans and I feel bad. And I've been too embarrassed to be like, oh, I couldn't go because I have a disability. I guess that's another reason why I made this video. I kind of just wanted to like come out about what's been going on with me and then wish the best of luck to anybody else that might be doing the same thing. This is the fucking longest video ever. yeah, stay tuned. I'm definitely going to be putting up more videos about how everything goes. Feel free to wish me luck if you want, but I think things are going to turn out how they turn out, and hopefully they're okay. Probably. We'll see. I definitely think I have a pretty good optimism about it. Okay, fantastic. Goodbye!